Chapter 1. The Cold Streets. It was very, very cold outside. Snow was falling from the sky, and it was getting darker and darker. It was the last evening of the year. On this cold and dark evening, there was a little girl walking along the street. She didn't have anything on her head, and her feet were without shoes or socks. When she left her home, she wore slippers, but they were too big for her. While she was crossing the street, she lost one slipper. It fell somewhere, and she couldn't find it. Another boy who saw the slipper took it and ran away. He thought it would be good for a cradle when he becomes a father. So now, the poor little girl was walking with her tiny feet, which were red and blue because of the cold. The little girl had a lot of matches in an old apron, and she held a bundle of them in her hand. She wanted to sell the matches to buy food and warm clothes, but nobody had bought anything from her all day. She didn't have any money. She felt very cold and hungry. She looked very sad and helpless. The snowflakes fell on her beautiful long hair, which was blonde and curly. But she didn't think about her hair or how it looked. She was too cold and hungry. She looked around and saw lights shining from the windows of the houses. She smelled something delicious. It was the smell of roast goose. She knew it was New Year's Eve, a special night when people have big feasts. The little girl found a corner between two houses and sat down. She tried to keep herself warm, but the cold was too much. She pulled her feet close to her body to protect them from the cold, but still she felt colder and colder. She couldn't go back home because she hadn't sold any matches, and she didn't have any money. She knew her father would be angry and might hit her. Besides, even if she went home, it would still be cold because her house had holes in the roof and the wind blew inside. Her hands were almost frozen. She had an idea. She thought a match could bring her some warmth. She took out a match from the bundle. She struck it against the wall, and it made a sound like rish. The match started to burn, and it created a warm and bright flame. The flame was like a little candle. She put her hands over the flame to warm them. It felt so good and comforting. It was like sitting in front of a big stove made of iron with shiny brass on top. The fire from the match was warm and delightful. The little girl also stretched out her feet to warm them. But suddenly the flame went out and the match was gone. She was left with only the burnt part of the match in her hand. The warmth and the stove disappeared. She was back in the cold again. She felt sad and lonely. She thought maybe another match could bring her warmth. So she took another match from the bundle and struck it against the wall. This match also lit up, and a bright light filled the area where she sat. The wall became see-through, like a thin curtain. Through the transparent wall, she saw a room with a white tablecloth. On the table, there was a delicious meal, and a roast goose was steaming. It smelled so good, and her mouth watered. But just as she was about to reach out and take a bite, the match burned out, and the bright light disappeared. The wall went back to being cold and solid. She was left with darkness again. She felt disappointed and hungry. Chapter 2. The Match's Magical Moments. The little girl was cold and sad. She thought matches could make her feel better. She took a match from the bundle and struck it on the wall. The match made a bright flame like a candle. The flame warmed her hands and made her feel cozy. It was like sitting near a warm stove. The match brought comfort and happiness. She warmed her feet near the flame, too. It felt nice. The cold streets didn't bother her anymore. She forgot about being hungry. But suddenly the match went out and the flame disappeared. The warmth was gone and the cold returned. She needed to light another match to bring back the magic. She took another match and lit it. The flame made the walls see-through like a curtain. Through the wall she saw a room. In the room there was a table with a white cloth. On the table there were pretty plates and cups. The smell of roast goose filled the air. It looked delicious. But just as she reached for the food, the match went out and the room disappeared. The wall became solid again. She felt both happy and sad at the same time. She wanted more magic. So she took another match and lit it. This time she saw something amazing. A big Christmas tree appeared. It was bigger and prettier than any tree she'd seen before. Lights twinkled on the branches. It was like a dream. She stretched out her hand to touch the lights and decorations. The tree made her forget about the cold and hunger. It brought warmth and joy to her heart. But the match burned down, and the tree turned into stars. One star fell from the sky. It meant that someone had gone to heaven. She struck another match, hoping to see her grandmother, and there she was, shining brightly. The match went out, but the love remained in the little girl's heart. Chapter 3. A Glimpse of Hope. The little girl was still cold and lonely. She had lost her matches, but she didn't give up hope. She believed that something good would happen. As she walked through the dark streets, she saw a faint light in the distance. It was coming from a small window. She felt a spark of excitement inside her. She approached the window and looked inside. There she saw a cozy room with a kind-looking woman sitting by the fireplace. The woman noticed the little girl and smiled warmly. The girl gathered her courage and knocked on the door. The woman opened it and welcomed her inside. She gave the girl a warm blanket and a cup of hot chocolate. The girl felt grateful and safe in the woman's home. They sat by the fireplace and talked. The woman listened to the girl's story with compassion. She learned about the girl's difficult life, her dreams, and her love for her grandmother. The woman understood and shared words of comfort. In that moment, the girl realized that there was kindness in the world. There were people who cared. She felt a glimmer of hope in her heart. The woman offered the girl a place to stay for the night. She gave her a soft bed and a warm meal. The girl couldn't believe her luck. As she lay in bed, She looked up at the ceiling and made a wish. She wished for a better life, for warmth and happiness, and for her dreams to come true. The next morning, the woman woke her up with a smile. She handed the girl a bag filled with warm clothes, food, and a small amount of money. The woman told her that she believed in her and that she could create a better future. She encouraged the girl to never lose hope and to keep chasing her dreams. With a grateful heart, the girl said goodbye to the kind woman. She walked back into the streets, feeling a renewed sense of hope and determination. She knew that her journey wouldn't be easy, but she was no longer alone. She carried the woman's words of encouragement and the warmth of her home in her heart. The little girl continued to walk, holding on to the hope that one day her dreams would come true. She believed in the magic of possibilities, and she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way.